Hey! Ooh, there's a button I can press that will tell us who we're playing with. N for names. Check it out! Zynar versus Nebish! Battle of the Champions! I love it. I'm like pushing buttons and things are coming up. It's really sweet. I'm gonna do that again sometime. Just 'cause I can. Just 'cause I can. And the reason that that name panel thing is cool isn't because we care who Zynar is, but because sometimes I have a replay, I mean not a replay, a video that I saved to a silly name like TVP, and I have no idea what game it was or anything about the game, and then I go into StarCraft and I've got a list of 100 replays, and I'm like, which one of these was the one that was saved to that so like, in StarCraft, all you can see is the name of the people and the map that you were on. And so I load up the video and fast forward and try to figure out the name of the guy. But sometimes I don't actually mouse over one of his buildings forever, so I have to watch like half the video just to figure out who's in it. So the cool thing about that Control-N thing is I can just throw it up at the beginning, and then now if I ever wonder who is in this video, I can just look at the beginning, and bam, there it will be. So Nick is doing the awesomestest of builds that both he and I have migrated to over time. Once upon a time, we both really liked the 2 racks into fast expand into 4 racks mass marine build, which is awesome. It gives you utter domination over everything Protoss can do up until he gets Psystorm or Colossus, because Marines are ridiculously powerful against all gateway units. And getting 4 racks worth of Marines just gives you a huge number of Marines, especially if you fast expand and get a bunch of guys on minerals and don't get a very large amount of gas. It's just really crazy, crazy good in the lower leagues. But once you get into Masters League, people get so good with their force fields and their sentry usage that they can actually shut down Mass Marine long enough for them to get Colossus out without needing too much. I mean, with just sentries, basically. So it becomes a lot less useful. So then also a lot of really powerful attacks happen, like Immortal Stalker Sentry Zealot all in, or a Void Ray Stalker all in, or all sorts of really scary, obnoxious stuff. So then we realized that, sure, this gives us early game domination, and it gives us an expo guaranteed even if our opponent is one basing, and it gives us a lot of cool stuff in that regard. But in the late game, we have this like, oh no, I have to transition into Marauder Medevac Viking in order to deal with Colossus, or Marauder Medevac Banshee something something in order to deal with whatever other late game thing that he's doing. And it's just really hard to transition out of Mass Marine into something else, because if you don't force a battle before he gets AoE, now you've got a ton of Marines. So those Marines are like almost completely useless. So yeah. So then we transitioned into doing more of a 3 racks expo into tech, and then later we transitioned into a 2 racks into tech with the later expo. So over time, the number of racks we were depending on went from 4 to 3 to 2. Pretty cool. So lately we've been doing this 2 racks factory thing because it gives you a quicker tech. But a big disadvantage of it is that you can't really safely expo and tech at the same time. So you're gonna kind of get stuck on one base. So if your first battle doesn't go really well, you end up playing against a guy like this who has this already working expansion when you're just starting your expansion, and so that puts you pretty far behind. So luckily, this sort of early battle tends to go very well, but the downside is that if it doesn't go very well, it puts you pretty far behind. So this is a great example of Nick getting himself into a situation in a game where now he's pretty far behind because of that. This is just one of the vulnerabilities of a late expo build. So boom, Nick is getting utterly dominated by all of these manly beast things. I would even go so far as to say Nick is doomed. Like, this toss could end the game right now very easily. In fact, he did. He won this game. Wow. So this is a loss that is due to the build vulnerability of if you lose that first battle, you're doomed. So let's look at that first battle. The reason I say if you lose the first battle, you're doomed is because this is a one-basing build. I know Nick got an expo, but an 11-minute expo doesn't even count. 5 minutes is a fast expand, 8 minutes is standard expand. Anything later than 8 minutes is a one base. And obviously you will expand eventually, but it still, in my mind, counts as a one base. So what's really this game came down to was the army size and composition during the first fight, because whoever wins or loses the first fight by a large margin, because Nick lost it by such a large margin, the game ended. So right here is what this game came down to. So let's find out what was going on. They had exactly equal supply. Now Protoss units are much more expensive per supply, so my guess is the fact that they were exactly equal in supply means the Protoss was way ahead. And he was up 250 minerals and 600 gas, so he was up by $850. And then looking at tech spending, yeah, look at that. He was up almost $1,000 in army, and he was down 600 in tech. But let's see if Nick's tech spending was relevant. He got blue flame, which is only good if you're facing a bunch of zealots, or even worse, or even better, a bunch of charge lots. He did have some zealots. Damn it. $500 of zealots against $500 of Hellions, so that's okay. Oh, geez, I had it on 8x speed. Alright. So, Nick's army is smaller. Let's see if Nick made the mistake he always makes of leaving stuff behind. Here's a Raven that's not going to be used at all in this battle. But basically, no, Nick didn't really leave a lot behind. So, how many SCVs did he pull? Now, this is the problem. Nick pulled 6 SCVs. He's got 1 Raven with a second one coming. You never want to make 2 Ravens. That's just silly. Ravens are good because of PDD, but 1 PDD is just as good as 2, is just as good as 5. Just make 1 Raven, don't make 2. That's silly. He only had 1 medevac. That's kind of a big deal, especially against a lot of Immortals. Because the point of medevacs is to let you use stim without taking the huge health hit of stim, and it's also to heal some SCVs in the front. So the SCV medevac combo only really works once you have 3 medevacs. So I would definitely have gone for 2 more medevacs instead of a second Raven. Like the 200 gas you spent on that Raven could have been 2 more medevacs. Also, never attack when you have $1,000 in the bank. So Nick's army could have been $1,000 bigger, and that's really significant because his entire army size is 3,000. So his army could have been literally 25% bigger. That's a huge deal. That's maybe 30% bigger. Anyway, that's a really huge deal. And then finally, if you constantly produce SCVs until 11 minutes, you will have probably 48 off of 1 command center. So max saturation on one base is 30, and max saturation gets smaller and smaller as these mineral patches dry up. This one only has 155 minerals on it, so soon his max saturation on one base is going to be 27 or so. So he is fully justified in pulling every single SCV except for leaving 27 back home. So he should have pulled at least 10 SCVs, and he only pulled 6. So that's just silly, because you have 10 SCVs available to fight, and you only pulled 6 of them. So it's like you left 4 of your SCVs home for no reason. And those 4 SCVs aren't increasing your income. They're doing nothing. They're idle. They're not being used, basically. Anyway, and on top of that, because this first battle is always so crucial, I like to pull even more than that. Instead of 10, bring 15, 16, 18, whatever. And then you can rebuild them, you know. So it's better to fall behind on income a tiny bit and win the fight, because whoever wins this fight gets to knock down the other person's expo, because neither one of them is defending their expo, and nor should they. So this fight is really crucial, and pull as many SCVs as you need to win the fight. Now, obviously the next thing that comes into play is positioning. He got his army split in half. Now watch these units. Don't even look at the units that are fighting. Are these units doing anything? No, they are not doing a single damn thing. They're completely idle. It's as if they don't even exist. SCVs, for example, not doing anything. These guys not doing anything. So now everything on this side of the force fields is dead, and these guys still haven't even fired more than maybe 5 collective shots. So that's a big deal.